Gentlemen, what should we name this war? Any suggestions? How about the Second Revolutionary War? No. How about Rise of the Revolutionary War? That's not it. Oh yes, I got it. The War of 1812. Yes, that works. Seriously guys, that's what you're going with? A war with a date? Congratulations on the dumbest name for a war. Hey, who are you? How did you come in here? Now that it's taken care of, let me explain. The War of 1812, also known as the Forgotten War, is basically the Second Revolutionary War. Many people believe the War of 1812 started because the British began kidnapping American soldiers from American ships to work for them, what is otherwise known as impressment. But that's half of the story. During the Napoleonic Wars, the Royal Navy's working conditions were terrible. Low pay, horrible food, and no pee breaks like Amazon. So British sailors were like, nope, I'm out of here, and deserted their post. They joined American ships, which paid better with decent food. Some even became American citizens, but Britain wasn't having it. So the Royal Navy stopped every American ship. Tell me, are you British or American? 100% purebred American cowboy, sir. Now say, bottle of water.
Bottle of water.
Take this one away. Not only did the British take away their deserted soldiers, in the process they kidnapped thousands of actual Americans because they were short on troops. Was it intentional? Was it an accident? Well, the British were looking for some revenge, so your guess is as good as mine. This made Americans very angry. Meanwhile, Britain and France were still locked in a death match. Each wanted to strangle the other's trade, and America, one of the biggest neutral shippers, got caught in the middle. You want to trade with France, you have to first stop in Britain, pay fees, and get a license. If you don't do that, we'll seize your cargo. But that's not fair, I'm a neutral party. The US, listen, if you follow Britain's rules, we will seize your ship. See, it's written here in the Berlin Decree and Milan Decree. That's not fair, man. If you want to be friends with that wine-loving France, you are my enemy. If you want to be friends with that tea-loving Britain, you are my enemy. Hey, you know what, guys? I won't be friends with any of you. From now on, we will not trade with Europe. See, it's written here in the Embargo Act of 1807. Well, it backfired and it hurt Americans more than Europe. Well, never mind the Embargo Act. The new Non-Intercourse Act of 1809 says that we'll trade with everyone except Britain and France. Also, don't focus too much on the name. It was not my idea. It also didn't work. Both Britain and France attacked American ships and took the loot and the sailors. Well, never mind the last two bills. The new Macon's Bill of 1810 says whoever will lift their restriction will work with them and cut ties with the other party. It didn't work either. Napoleon pretended to agree, so the US cut off Britain. But still, they attacked American ships from time to time, and Britain kept bullying American ships and taking their sailors. I can't take this anymore. You know what, guys? This is war. The American war hawks pushed for war. On June 18, 1812, James Madison declared war on Britain. Since the British were busy fighting Napoleon, Americans decided to invade Canada and fight the British there. American politicians were way too optimistic and naive about Canada's stand. They thought Canada wanted to join America and was waiting to be liberated. But the truth was quite the opposite. In July 1812, General William Hull marched out of Detroit with an army, crossed into Canada, and then promptly freaked out. Hull kept waiting for Canadians to welcome him with open arms, but instead they were like,
"Who are you?"
Meanwhile, British General Isaac Brock and the Shawnee leader, Tecumseh, started making noise nearby, and Hull panicked. Despite outnumbering the enemy, he imagined thousands of redcoats and warriors hiding in the bushes. He was so scared that he'd be killed by the Native Americans, he retreated back to Detroit without a fight. A month later, he surrendered the entire fort and his whole army to Brock without firing a single decent shot. You can say the start was pretty bad. America's second try came at Queenston Heights near Nigeria. The plan? Cross the river, climb cliffs, seize the high ground. On paper, brilliant plan. In practice, well, half the US militia refused to cross, saying, "We didn't sign up to leave America." Those who did made it up the cliffs, drove the British back, and looked around for reinforcements. It didn't come. Enter General Isaac Brock, hero of Detroit. He led a bold charge, then immediately got shot and killed early in the fight. Canadians were shaken, but reinforcements and Tecumseh's warriors rallied hard and won. The Americans surrendered again. Canada 2, US 0. Oof, it's not looking good for the USA. Finally, in April 1813, the US scored a win by storming York, modern Toronto. They pushed the British back, but as they retreated, the British blew up their gunpowder magazine, killing and wounding dozens of Americans. After taking the town, the Americans, well, let's just say they got carried away. They looted government buildings, burned the Parliament House, and set fire to parts of York. Detroit had already fallen to the British, and whoever held Lake Erie could move troops, supplies, and reinforcements across the region. For the US, taking the lake was about survival. The US decided to send Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry. Perry built a fleet out of Greenwood, and whatever supplies he could find. The battle was brutal. Perry's flagship, the Lawrence, got hammered until it looked like Swiss cheese, with most of its crew dead or wounded. But instead of giving up, Perry grabbed his battle flag, hopped in a rowboat, and dramatically transferred to his other ship, the Niagara. From there, he broke through the British line, blasted their ships at close range, and forced them to surrender. After the victory in September 1813, Perry sent his famous message: "We have met the enemy, and they are ours." After Perry's win, the British could supply their garrison at Detroit. General Henry Proctor, this guy panicked and retreated inland along the Thames River, dragging Tecumseh with him. Tecumseh wanted to stand and fight for native homelands, but Proctor fled at the first gunfire. General William Henry Harrison, future president for 31 days, caught up at Moravian Town. The British collapsed instantly. Proctor ran away. Tecumseh fought bravely but was killed. His death shattered native resistance in the Northwest. America reclaimed Detroit and finally had a solid victory. The U.S. then tried a two-pronged invasion of Montreal. General Wade Hampton slogged through swamps, starved, and lost at Chateauguay to a much smaller Canadian force. Meanwhile, General James Wilkinson floated down the St. Lawrence, only to get crushed at Chrysler's Farm in November 1813. By December, the whole campaign collapsed. Ouch. In Europe, Napoleon finally fell in April 1814. Britain could now spare troops for America. Their first big move: march on Washington. At Bladensburg, U.S. militia broke so fast the battle was nicknamed the Bladensburg Races. The British then marched into the capital, gleeful for revenge after York, then torched the Capitol, the Treasury, and the White House. First Lady Dolly Madison saved the original draft of the Declaration of Independence and George Washington's portrait and took it with her. That night, Washington glowed orange. After burning Washington, the British thought they could knock America out of the war by striking another major city, Baltimore. On September 12, 1814, at the Battle of North Point, American militia put up stiff resistance. During the fight, British General Robert Ross, the hero of Washington's burning, was shot and killed, which badly shook British morale. The army pulled back, leaving the attack of the Royal Navy. That night, the British fleet opened a massive bombardment on Fort McHenry, which guarded Baltimore's harbor. For 25 hours, rockets and shells rained down, but the fort's defenders held firm. Watching this from a ship in the harbor was Francis Scott Key, an American lawyer who had been detained by the British. Inspired by the sight of the giant U.S. flag still flying above Fort McHenry at dawn, he scribbled down a poem. It became known as the Star-Spangled Banner, and eventually the U.S. national anthem. The British bombardment failed to break Baltimore, and with General Ross dead and their navy repelled, the British abandoned the attack. For Americans, Baltimore was a huge morale boost, proof they could withstand the might of the empire. By late 1814, both sides were exhausted. Negotiators met in Ghent. The Treaty of Ghent was signed on December 24, 1814. Restored pre-war conditions, no land changed hands. But news hadn't arrived in time. On January 8, 1815, Britain attacked New Orleans. Andrew Jackson, with regulars, militia, Choctaw allies, free African Americans, and pirates, waited behind earthworks. The British marched straight at them. In under an hour, 2,000 British fell, including General Pakenham, while U.S. losses were around 70. The battle changed nothing diplomatically, but Jackson became a national hero, and Americans felt like they'd won. The Senate ratified the treaty in February 1815, officially ending the war. Why the forgotten war? Because nothing really changed. Impressment faded on its own. Once Napoleon was defeated, Canada remained British. No territory shifted, yet Americans celebrated New Orleans, Baltimore, and Perry's victory. For Britain, with Napoleon gone, the war was just an annoying side quest finally over.